Imagine you're a high school student who has a crush on your senpai, but you can't confess to her because you promised you'd beat her in a game of shogi before you did. The bad thing is that she is the best player in the entire school, and she also secretly has a crush on you. This is the story of Yumu Tanaka, who day after day challenges Yurushi and Oton, the president of the shogi club, even though they are the only two members of the club in the whole school. Luckily, now he has a partner in the club, since it's not the kind of game you can play alone. Shogi, for those who don't know, is a kind of traditional Japanese chess, and Yurushi is a big fan of it. Luckily, he now has a partner in the club since it's not the kind of game you can play alone. Yurushi teaches Yumu shogi, but he calls her cute, flustering her. She accuses him of trying to seduce her. Yumu denies the accusations, and Yurushi teases him with a hug or kiss if he admits, but he insists he's just there to play. She accuses him of wanting to seduce her. After all, until he met her, he had never played shogi before. Yumu denies the accusations, but he refuses, just there to play. Yumu loves Yurushi but won't confess until he beats her in shogi. Yurushi says his defensive style hinders winning. In reality, Yumu is totally head over heels for Yurushi, but being as proud as he has promised himself that he won't confess his love until he beats her in a shogi match, which is no easy feat considering that his senpai is an expert player and has never lost a game against him. Yurushi tells our guy that his playing style is more defensive than anything else, and that makes it really hard for him to win. She also tries to use psychological tactics to distract him and tells him he's handsome, but in the end, she doesn't have the courage to go through with it. Later, during recess, Yurushi overhears one of her classmates trying to convince Yumu to join the school's kendo team, since our guy is the best kendo fighter in the school's history. However, Yumu tells him he's not interested. Then, the two go to the club room and she offers him different advantages so that he can beat her, but our protagonist tells her that if the victory is not fair, it would have no value. She also assures him that she won't leave the shogi club, as she realized he was listening and is really worried about that. After playing and Yurushi defeating Yumu again, the young woman receives very good news. One of her classmates is going to join the club. This doesn't sit well with our protagonist at all, since he's fine with things as they are, but she wants the club to grow. However, her classmate got a boyfriend, so she quits the club before she even gets a chance to start. Ayumu asks Yurushi if she'll quit the club when she gets a boyfriend, but she tells him that the thing she loves most in the world is shogi, so she finds that pretty unlikely. She asks him if he'll quit the club when he gets a girlfriend, but he responds quite the opposite, saying that if he gets a girlfriend, he'll have to spend all day in the shogi room since his girlfriend is a huge fan of the game. Later, Ayumu runs into Yurushi, who's trying to figure out how to skip gym class because coordination isn't her thing, and sports aren't either. But our guy encourages her to give it a shot, saying a bunch of sweet things that make her blush, while also explaining that beyond that, she needs to develop other skills besides shogi. So, she decides to give it a try. In the club room, the two play again, and our guy uses a technique called the invincible castle, which is only invincible in name. Yurushi explains the weakness of that technique, but all she manages to do is get Ayumu to sit next to her to see things from her perspective, which makes her super nervous since her own invincible castle had been defeated. After a day of shogi, the two friends head home. The weather got worse and it started to rain. There's a usual barrage of compliments from Yurushi, making her all nervous. She tries to use shogi techniques and responds directly to see how he reacts, but the guy doesn't budge, since being direct isn't really his style. Yumu offers to share his umbrella with her, and the two walk home side by side. Our guy says he enjoys the walk, and Yurushi tries to downplay it like it's no big deal, but they both have a good time. As she gets closer to him, she tells him that the next time it rains, they can share the umbrella again. It's sports day at school and Yurushi is not at all happy. Not only does it take time away from her beloved shogi, but physical education isn't her thing either, so she's worried about that too. However, Ayumu tells her it's okay since she needs to do some exercise every now and then, and there's not much she can do about it since it's mandatory. They both part ways since our guy is about to run the 100 meters. That's when Yurushi's friend, Maki, talks to him about how close she is to her clubmate. Ayumu stands out in every single sports activity, to the point of putting his team in the lead, impressing everyone present. Yurushi, on the other hand, is failing at everything, and it's getting worse each time. As expected, During one of the breaks, all the school's sports clubs try to recruit Yumu. Yurushi tries to interrupt them, telling them that our guy is a member of the shogi club, surprising everyone, especially since nobody even knew that club existed at the school, which makes our guy really sad. So, sitting under the shade of a tree, Yumu asks Yurushi if having more members in the club would make her happy, to which she answers yes. Our guy isn't too thrilled about the idea of sharing the club with more people, but he'd rather see Yurushi happy above all else, so he promises her that he'll keep scoring points at the event to give their club some visibility. The next event is the three-legged race. Maki, who was supposed to run with Yurushi, says she feels sick and asks Yumu to run for her, which makes the expressionless guy really happy. As they get ready to run, our main characters bump into Takeru and Sakurako, two of Ayumu's classmates and friends, who, despite their height difference, are really good at the three-legged race. The race is disastrous due to Yurushi's clumsiness and height. Between the height difference and Yurushi's lack of coordination, they are unable to take a step without falling, so they suffer a humiliating defeat. Ayumu is happy to have run with Yurushi. Yurushi is worried she'll make her team lose. Ayumu reassures her, promising to make up lost time, and he does, taking the lead. The final event is a relay race, and Yurushi is worried that her poor physical ability will surely cause her team to lose. Ayumu, on the other hand, tells her not to worry, saying that for every second she loses, he'll make it up, which he actually does, managing to take the lead. Before declaring a winner, each team member has to pick up a random item written on a piece of paper. The race comes down to Ayumu and Takeru, who have to find the object that the paper asks for from the audience. Maki jokingly tells Yurushi that the paper given to Yumu says he has to find his beloved and that he'll come for her. Interestingly, after reading the paper, our guy approaches Yurushi, picks her up, and carries her across the finish line. The judge reads the paper that says Ayumu had to cross the finish line with a cute object and declares the challenge fulfilled, naming Ayumu and Yurushi's team the winners. While everyone is celebrating, Takeru, who hasn't moved since he read his paper, curses under his breath because he's said to bring the person he likes. After the sports event, we find ourselves in the school library, where the ones in charge are none other than Takeru and Sakurako. The expressionless girl orders Takeru to do things for her, and when he refuses, she's able to hypnotize him even if he doesn't want to. Yumu walks into the library and asks his friend to join the shogi club. Takeru asks him why, since he knows he wouldn't want more people in the club. Our guy explains that he wants him to sign up, but with the condition that he be a ghost member, meaning he would be an official member but wouldn't show up in the game room, so it would still just be him and Yurushi. Takeru doesn't get it, but Sakurako convinces him to sign up. She doesn't do it because clubs and people aren't her thing, so the two of them will just keep hanging out together in the library. At the end of the day, as our main characters head home, Ayumu shares some good news with Yurushi. They have a new member and are just one step away from becoming an officially recognized club by the school. The girl is super happy and invites our protagonist to celebrate by eating in the park and playing a bit of portable shogi. While they play, Ayumu tells Yurushi a bit about Takeru, explaining that he knows him from his kendo days, when the guy was the closest thing to a worthy rival he could have had. He also explains that Takeru will be a ghost member, although he doesn't mention that it was his request. Even though this doesn't excite Yurushi, the senpai is happy to at least have a new member. He also explains to her that she will be a phantom limb, although he does not tell her that this was at her request. Even though this doesn't excite Yurushi, the senpai is happy to at least have a new member. Ayumu doesn't seem happy, but then again, he never really seems happy. He's still not thrilled about the idea of more people joining the club, but he's torn between what he wants and what makes his beloved happy. Despite having a good time, Yurushi confuses the game's terminology and says something sweet to our protagonist, so she runs away embarrassed since she had almost declared her love for him. Later, in that same park, Takeru and Sakurako share some food, both enjoying their own relationship, whatever it may be, because it seems like they don't even know themselves. A few days later, our protagonists meet up to play, and Yurushi tries to get Ayumu to notice her new hairstyle by moving her head from side to side. Finally, the boy realizes that his classmate has a different haircut. The two start talking about it, but they are interrupted when the ghost member of the club, Takeru, shows up. To both of their surprise, Takeru joins the class, and even though he only knows the basics of the game, Yurushi decides to teach teach him a bit more. Meanwhile, a jealous Ayumu sits next to his friend with a portable shogi case. The situation improves as the senpai praises Takeru's moves and some of his tactics, while on the other hand, the protagonist always has an angry look on his face, so there's really no difference when he's happy. Suddenly, just when it seems like the tension is about to explode, Sakuraku shows up and demands that Takeru come back to the library with her. When she hypnotizes him, he doesn't have much of a choice and disappears as quickly as he arrived. After Takeru leaves, everything goes back to normal. Yurushi asks our protagonist if he's jealous, to which he replies that he's not, even though his attitude says otherwise. Takeru asks Sakuraku why, and she says she was between Yuma and Yurushi, as it's her antisocial friend's first close bond. Takeru asks if she likes anyone. She says no. When she asks, he says no too, though he loves her. Takeru takes the opportunity to ask his friend if she has feelings for anyone, to which she replies that she doesn't. When she asks him, he replies that he doesn't either, even though he's head over heels in love with her. Later, Takeru wants to go to the bathroom, but Sakurako manipulates him into staying by her side no matter how badly he needs to go, since that's just how their relationship is. Back in the club room, the activities have wrapped up and our protagonists are getting ready to head back to class. Ayumu finds out that the next day, Yurushi will be selling food at the school festival, so he decides that nothing in the world will keep him from attending the event. They both chat, and she laments that due to the lack of members, they still can't be recognized as an official club. If they were, they could have organized an activity. However, both of them believe that next year will be different. Our protagonist takes the chance to ask her out on a date, being as straightforward as ever. She gets embarrassed, but she doesn't say no, so they meet halfway and decide to spend the afternoon together at the event, which she claims is to recruit members, making her a bit less uncomfortable. The next day, at the festival, Yurushi is selling takeout food, but she's not having much luck. Ayumu arrives at his member recruitment date, but she tells him that she can't do anything until she finishes selling everything. Our protagonist helps her sell all the dishes, even forcing Takeru to buy the last 3 that were left. Now that they're free, our protagonists decide to start recruiting new members for their club. Yurushi tells Yuma that she's changed her mind and that this will be a date, which makes our protagonist really happy. Ayumu, feeling embarrassed, admits that even though this was his idea, he's never been on a date and doesn't know how to go about it. Yurushi, who is a bit more experienced, tells him not to worry, that she'll take care of everything, even though she has never been on a date either, but she doesn't say anything. Overall, the date is a success. The two friends have a great time that afternoon, doing different activities. However, Maki shows up and sees the couple, commenting on how happy it makes her to see Yurushi on her first date, which embarrasses our protagonist since the truth has been revealed. For Yumu, being who he is, he doesn't care about that. Instead, he feels honored to be the young woman's first date and asks for permission to take charge now. The two go to a haunted house and hold hands. Takeru, who was in charge of scaring them, gets nervous when he comes into contact with Sakurako, which ends up scaring everyone else. Later, after the scare, the two friends sit down on a bench. Ayumu pulls out a portable shogi game, which calms Yurushi and brings her back to her comfort zone. There, the guy explains to her that he felt jealous when she called Takeru by his name and asked her to do the same with him, which she, after a moment of shyness, agrees to, filling our protagonist with joy. Days later, Ayumu arrives at the club room, only to find it empty. What he doesn't know is that Yurushi is hiding in one of the empty boxes in the place, ready to jump out and scare him. Seeing that there's no one around, our protagonist retreats and she loses her chance, but decides to keep waiting since she is committed to the joke. Ayumu knows Yurushi is in the box, returns, sits, ready for Orochi. She jumps out, screams, scared. He goes back in and sits down alone, determined to let himself get scared when Orochi jumps out of the box. When she comes out, she screams so loud that it ends up scaring her instead, and she promises herself not to pull that kind of prank again. After that, the duo gets to work cleaning the club room because Yurushi wants it to be clean and presentable for when the new members arrive. However, there's the issue that they can't leave the trash in the school storage, since the shogi room is the school storage. While cleaning, they find decorations, share holiday plans, organize, and clean. After changing the light, they organize the place, tidying up and replacing the light tube, which Yurushi handles. Since she's short, Ayumu helps her. They discuss how the place was worse before Ayumu arrived, realizing she cleaned for him. Grateful, he asks her a favor. When the club is official, they'll get a room, but he wants to keep playing here. Later, Later, Yurushi finds a DVD player in the trash and asks Ayumu if he has a DVD to test it. Grateful, he asks her for a favor. When the club becomes official, the school will give them their own room, but he wants to keep playing with her in this place that makes him so happy. Later, among the trash, Yurushi finds a DVD player and asks Yumu if he has a DVD to test it out. Our main character answers no in a very suspicious way, so Yurushi tells him to stop lying because she's figured it out. He admits that he does have a DVD, but that its content isn't suitable for watching there. The girl thinks it's an adult movie and asks him where he got it, to which he replies that he bought it online. He asks her if she's ever seen that kind of movie, and she says no, so he suggests that they could watch the DVD together. She doesn't know how to respond, and he pulls out the movie, revealing that it's actually a horror film. Days later, our main characters are playing, and Ayumu is feeling more down than usual because despite all his effort, he still hasn't been able to beat his senpai, and the year is coming to an end. Yurushi offers to play with fewer pieces, and he replies that that victory wouldn't count, but she tells him that a win is a win. This clicks in Yumu's head, and he gets excited about the idea, starting to play better than ever. After reading a book on the game, he uses a move that works against Yurushi's fewer piece style. Seeing that things are getting serious, she also plays with more enthusiasm, making sure they both have more fun than ever. Finally, for the first time, Yumu comes out on top and gathers the courage to ask Yurushi out. She saw it coming and prepares her counterattack, but the moment gets interrupted when one of the teachers walks into the classroom to collect the trash. At night, Takeru and Sakuraku walk down the street looking at the Christmas decorations, and the guy asks her what her plans are for the holidays. She replies that she doesn't have any, and when he invites her to watch the fireworks, she tells him that she doesn't enjoy crowds, but they can go eat cake together. On the other hand, our main characters also say goodbye for the new year, but Ayumu goes all out and tells Yurushi that next time he wants to beat her fair and square. Yurushi walks away, and our main character is left mortified, regretting his own cowardice and not being able to confess his feelings. The next day, on New Year's Day, our main characters meet at the city temple and together they decide to make a wish, for which Yumu pays a good amount of money as an offering. Then, the two chat, and our main character finally gathers the courage to invite Yurushi to spend Christmas with him. Unfortunately, the holidays were already over, but Yurushi tells Yumu that she'll keep him in mind for next year. Finally, they both hang up their wishes. Yumu asks her what her wish is, to which Yurushi replies that her wish is for the shogi club to become popular. He assures her that her wish is going to come true, and when she asks how he knows that, he replies that the wish he paid so much money for is for her wish to come true. In a foggy atmosphere, Yurushi approaches Yumu quite aggressively, and even though our main character isn't sure what's about to happen, Yurushi, not taking no for an answer, gets ready to kiss her. Suddenly, the young girl wakes up, realizing that it was all just a dream. During the winter break, our main character walks down the street thinking about her dream and wondering if she really wants to kiss Yumu, but her thoughts are interrupted when Ayumu himself appears right in front of her as he's at the city bookstore looking for shogi books. This makes our cheerful friend super happy because she loves that her student is showing interest in the game. So, not only does she insist on joining him, but she even recommends some of her favorite books. Then, she gets excited to find a volume of her favorite manga, and Ayumu, being who he is, decides to start reading it too. After their stop at the bookstore, the two friends walk down the street, and Ayumu asks Yurushi if she ever thinks about him. But Yurushi is so surprised that she doesn't know how to respond. Being an expert in our main character's sudden changes, he invites the young girl to eat, but since it's January 1st, all the restaurants are closed. Luckily, Yurushi knows one that's definitely open, so the two head to a restaurant and are greeted by the owner, who doesn't seem to be one of Yurushi's biggest fans, as he treats her with disdain and even forbids her from playing shogi in the place. Ayumu feels a bit uncomfortable with the whole situation, but she tells him that she's known the owner since she was a kid and that it's all just a coincidence. The young girl tells our main character that the man was a good friend of her grandfather, who happens to be the same person who taught her how to play shogi, seeing this as an opportunity to get to know her beloved better. Ayumu asks the old man what Yurushi was like as a kid, and the man shares a bunch of embarrassing stories, making her blush like crazy. After eating and while walking down the street, Yumu meets King, Yurushi's cat. Knowing the saying that pets resemble their owners, he starts saying a bunch of sweet things that our main character realizes are actually directed at her, but it still helps Ayumu win the animal's affection. Our main character tries to get her cat back since she has grown quite fond of Ayumu, but the animal won't let go, and the two end up stumbling, almost kissing in the process. They both regain their composure, and Ayumu tells Yurushi that he's really happy about how their day went, since now he knows a lot about her childhood, her pet, and even how she cuts her food, which makes him very happy. While all this is happening, in another part of the city, Takeru and Sakurako go to the movies to see the adaptation of one of the girl's favorite books, which makes her really happy. Well, I don't know how happy she is, because so far, it's the most I've seen her smile. While watching the movie, Takeru notices that his friend takes his hand and caresses it in the same way the main character caresses her romantic interest, even repeating some line. This stirs up mixed feelings in Takeru, as he's happy about what's happening, but he realizes that Sakurako is being a bit affectionate. Also, finally, during the last scene of the movie, they're about to kiss, so Sakurako gets ready to do the same with Takeru. However, in the movie, the kiss is interrupted when the main character turns into a tree, which kind of kills the vibe. As they leave the movie theater, Sakurako tells her friend that in the book, they do kiss, but that the ending of the movie is fine too. She thanks Takeru for inviting her back with our main characters. At night, Orochi accidentally calls Yuma, and the two chat over video call. He asks her if she's had her first dream of the year yet, but she lies and says no, so he tells her that he hasn't had his either, but he hopes his first dream is with her. The two keep talking, and Yurushi opens up to the main character, but when he says something sweet, she realizes that he has already fallen asleep. It's Valentine's Day, and in Japan, it's customary for women to give chocolate to men on this day. So, Yurushi is walking down the street with a gift for Yumu, since as the club president and his senpai, it's her duty to acknowledge her pupil's efforts. However, while looking at the package, she wonders if maybe the gift is too much, but her thoughts are interrupted when you-know-who shows up behind her. The two walk to school, and our main character tries to bring up the topic and give gifts without making it a big deal, but because of her shyness, she misses her chance. At school, everyone celebrates Valentine's Day. Girls give chocolates to boys. Yurushi saves her gift for someone special, and Maki encourages her to give it to Yumu. Sakurako gives treats to friends and asks Yumu if Yurushi has given him anything. He says no. Takeru offers to help, but Sakurako stops him, realizing it will complicate things. On the other side of the school, an embarrassed Sakurako is handing out treats to her friends and asks Yumu if Yurushi has given him anything, to which he replies that she hasn't yet. The impatient Takeru tells him he's surprised to see him so nervous and offers to help by going to the shogi room to convince Yurushi, but Sakurako, realizing that it's only going to complicate things and that she doesn't have time for any drama, forces Takeru to give up on that plan, first trying to hypnotize him and then stealing his candy. Later, in the shogi room, Yurushi practices how to give her gift to Yumu, but when she sees him arrive all nervous and with a grumpy face, she decides to wait again, so they both start playing instead. Yurushi hides the gift in Yumu's bag, but trips. Embarrassed, she gives him the chocolate. Sakurako asks Takeru why he hasn't eaten her chocolate. He prefers to save it, so she unwraps it, showing a heart. Disappointed and embarrassed, the girl gives our main guy the blessed gift, which at this point could have been anything and it would still be appreciated, but it's chocolate, so he thanks her for it. In the park, Sakurako asks Takeru why he hasn't eaten the chocolate she gave him, and he tells her he prefers to save it. So, she takes it from his hands and unwraps it, revealing that the chocolate bar is decorated with a heart. The next day, Yurushi arrives super excited to her classroom, ready for an afternoon of shogi, but Yumu tells her they'll have to put it on hold this time because finals are coming up and he needs to study. She replies that luckily she doesn't have those problems because she has really good grades, but she gets offended when Yumu doubts her and says he's going to help her study, first to prove her wrong, second so they can play again, and third because, well, we all know he likes her. The two head to the library only to find it packed with students who had the same idea, so they end up having to share a desk with Takeru and Sakurako. While they study, Yurushi notices the strange relationship her friends have and asks Yumu if they're dating, but when she asks him that in private, she gets too close and ends up embarrassing herself in front of the other students. Days go by, and Ayumu keeps studying, sometimes alone, sometimes with his friends, and most importantly, sometimes with Yurushi. The exams are over, making Yurushi happy. Yumu gives Yurushi a white day chocolate, a tradition where men give women white chocolate a month after Valentine. Yurushi is surprised, feels she messed up, but Yumu smoothly gives it again. However, before they start, Yumu gives Yurushi a chocolate, celebrating White Day, a Japanese tradition that takes place a month after Valentine's Day, where men give white chocolate to women. Yurushi is surprised to receive the gift and feels like she messed it up, but Yumu gives it back to her in one smooth move so that this time it goes well. The young girl gets ready to play, but our main guy tells her they have to attend support classes since she answered everything correctly but marked some wrong answers. A new school year begins, and Ayumu is now in his second year while Yurushi is in her third. The two meet in the club room, ready to kick off another year of games. A little while later, the two head to the courtyard to see what classes they got, and they run into Sakurako and Takaru, who are once again in the same class. Ayumu asks Yurushi if she wants to be with someone specific this year to share a class, and she replies that she does, which makes our main guy wonder who she's talking about. Ayumu goes to check and finds out he's in the first class of his second year, and from a distance, he sees Yurushi celebrating because she got what she wanted and will be in the same class with that special someone. When our main guy asks her what class she's in, she replies that she's in the first class of her third year, so this year they'll be able to be together again. At the sports event, Ayumu realizes that the person she was talking about was him, and that makes him super happy, but you know how he is. He doesn't smile much, to say the least. Later, our main girl meets up with her new classmates, and since the budget doesn't allow for new characters, it just so happens that they're the same ones from the previous class, and nothing has changed. So, Maki is going to keep an eye on our main girl. The girls celebrate and plan to go to a place where they sell sweets for lunch, but Yurushi tells them that he has other plans, and Maki half guesses. Even though our main girl enjoys being with Ayumu, her real plans are different because what she really wants is to play shogi. In the club, the guys print out 100 registration forms because Yurushi is hopeful that tomorrow at the club recruitment event, they'll have a lot of potential new members. This brings back memories for Yumu, who recalls how exactly a year ago he was walking around campus with Takaru, both intending to sign up for the Kendo Club. But by a twist of fate, a flyer for the Shogi Club fell into their hands, and that's when he met Yumu, who invited him to join. Completely in love, our main guy didn't hesitate to say yes, giving up on the Kendo Club and starting a new chapter in his life. During the club festival, our main characters set up the Shogi Club booth, and the president orders the two members to go around recruiting people. This is when a new student makes her entrance, a young girl with dark hair who turns down invitations from different clubs because she knows exactly which club she wants to join. With determination in her eyes, she sets out to find her senpai. At the Shogi Club booth, the recruitment campaign is a disaster and no one is interested in joining, but something curious happens when the flyers get scattered by the wind and a mysterious girl, showing impressive physical skill, catches them in midair. The young girl asks Yurushi for directions, but just then Yumu and Takaru arrive, whom she greets as her senpais, and she finds out they are part of the Orochi Club. Without hesitation, she signs up and introduces herself as Renkardawa. Ren mistakenly joins the Shogi Club, thinking it's the Kendo Club. Upset, she challenges the protagonist, promising to quit shogi for Kendo if she wins. Ayumu asks Yurushi for permission, knowing Ren is determined. Ren, angry at the Shogi Club's insult to Kendo champions, challenges our protagonist. If she wins, she'll quit shogi for Kendo, despite not wanting to leave. Ayumu, not ignoring friends, asks Yurushi to accept, knowing Ren's resolve. Yurushi agrees, unable to stop him, and worries since Ayumu hasn't practiced in a year, while Ren is fit. Ayumu also does not want to ignore his companion's request, so he asks Yurushi for permission to accept the challenge, especially knowing that Ren will not give in. Yurushi agrees, worried about Ayumu and Ren. Takaru says club popularity is key, but Yurushi cares more about not losing Yumu. The protagonist rushes, but it's over. Yumu apologizes. Takaru tries to calm Yurushi down by telling her that the important thing is for the club to be popular, and that they can get more members if something happens. But it's clear that for her, it's about more than just the number of club members. What she really doesn't want is to lose Yumu, and if he's not part of the club, maybe she won't want to stick around either. So the protagonist runs off to avoid the duel, but by the time she gets there, it's already too late. The battle has ended, and Yumu looks at her, apologizing. Yurushi is about to break down, but the protagonist keeps talking, explaining that he's sorry for interrupting the recruitment day, but he still won the duel. At the end of the day, the club hasn't managed to get any new members, but they still have one more day. However, to their surprise, our protagonists discover that the day wasn't a total waste of time, as Ren, having lost the duel, feels obligated to be part of the Shogi Club. So, Yurushi celebrates the arrival of their long-awaited fourth member. After the club becomes official with Rin's arrival, Yurushi asks the new member if she is having any regrets, but Rin replies that she isn't, and that she'll put all her energy into the club, just like she would have if she had joined the Kendo club. Yurushi is happy, but she notices that Rin doesn't refer to her as president, so she takes it upon herself to earn the girls' respect. Yurushi has Ayuma play against Rin, and she's shocked when Rin wins. This makes the intense girl lose respect for her senpai, which doesn't bother Yumu. Yurushi fears Rin will take the club presidency if she loses, so she makes mistake, putting Rin ahead. Encouraged by Yumu, Yurushi turns the game around. Rin is convinced Yurushi is a shogi genius who feigned weakness to give her a false sense of security. However, she receives encouragement from Ayumu, which allows her to win. This drives Rin absolutely crazy, convinced that Yurushi is a shogi genius who only showed weakness at the beginning of the match to give her a false sense of security. Later, Rin runs into Yurushi in the school hallways and offers to get her lunch and be her little servant. But Yumu, knowing that this is something Rin does for people she respects, decides to take the load off Yurushi and offers to do it himself. Finally, it's Maki who shows up and introduces herself to Rin as a ghost member of the club, even better than Yurushi, although she actually doesn't even know how the pieces move. So the two of them leave, leaving our protagonists alone. Later, Yurushi asks Yumu if he would have preferred to be alone in the club together, but his answer leaves her puzzled. So, she tries to make him nervous by telling him he's really handsome, but before she can gather her courage, Rin interrupts. Later, Rin asks Yurushi if she likes Yumu, to which she immediately denies it, but admits that she wishes he liked her too. After getting confirmation from Takeru, Rin confronts Yumu, furious with her senpai's cowardice and demanding that he confess, but he explains that won't happen until he defeats her. Rin completely understands what our protagonist is saying, since at her previous school, she trained constantly with the intention of one day defeating Yumu and confessing her love to him, just like what's happening right now. That's why the young girl, who's an experienced shogi player, tells him that she'll help him improve his game so he can confess. This makes the club sessions more intense than usual. Later, Yurushi throws a party for the new members and thanks Yuma for his help in making the club official, recalling that he wished for this to happen on New Year's. And now she finally sees that wish coming true. Yurushi then approaches him, but only to pluck a petal off his collar, leaving them both embarrassed after he says he thought she was going to hug him. Golden Week in Japan is a series of national holidays that happen at the end of April and the beginning of May, basically a super long weekend. For our protagonist, this has come to an end, so they want to say goodbye in any way they can. In the club, in front of Rin, Ayumu invites Yurushi to enjoy the last day of Golden Week together. She doesn't know what to say, but eventually she agrees, only to find out that Rin was also invited, just like Takeru and Sakurako. It's actually a group outing, which disappoints her but also calms her down at the same time. On the other hand, Sakurako tells Takeru that she won't go to the outing since being around a lot of people isn't her thing, but instead, she wants to spend a day just the two of them. Later, the two of them are looking for four-leaf clovers for Sakurako to use as a bookmark, and after a long search, Takeru finally finds one. But just as he's about to hand it to her, he trips and falls right on top of it. On the way home, Sakurako tells him that the reason he fell was because of the bad luck he got from doubting the power of the four-leaf clover. But the boy thinks the opposite, because falling on top of her was a stroke of luck. Meeting day, minus Sakurako, group hits arcade. Sporty guys excel. Yurushi struggles, but in all the physical games, Yurushi has no break, and her results are humiliating, although she is able to enjoy a video game where the spaceships are shaped like shogi pieces. Then, the group plays a curious game of air hockey, where Yurushi feels uncomfortable again because of Yumu's closeness, as the guy plays surrounding her. Yeah, from the outside, it looks really weird, and Yurushi has every right to feel embarrassed, but in the end, they end up winning. Then the group splits up. Rin and Takeru walk past some claw machines, and the guy spots a lucky edible bear, and decides to win it as a gift for Sakurako. Later, Yurushi thanks our protagonist for helping her with the hockey game, and tells him that whenever he wants, she'll repay the favor. Ayumu immediately agrees, and our protagonists decide to take a picture together. After several failed attempts filled with filters, and dealing with the fact that Ayumu doesn't smile even for the photo, they choose their favorite one, where they were both accidentally laughing. It's not the best photo, but it's the one they like the most. Golden Week ends, and at school, Sakura encounters a surprise. Takura gives her a bear he won. She reveals a classmate confessed to her. He doesn't interfere with her happiness. She admits she's unsure how to respond. She responds that one of her classmates just confessed to her, breaking Takura's heart, which leaves him devastated. But he's so in love with her that he refuses to interfere between her and her happiness, so he just holds it in. However, she tells him that she doesn't know how to respond since she's never been in love before and doesn't know what that's like. He explains to her that being in love means enjoying every moment with someone who makes you feel comfortable with yourself. All this description makes Sakurako remember her experience with him in the clover field, and she makes an important decision. Sakurako takes the bear and shares it with Takuru, telling him that she won't accept another student's confession of love and that she wants to share all her luck with him. Another day, school ends and our protagonists return home. Though rain was expected, the sun came out, frustrating Yumu, who wanted to walk Yurushi home under an umbrella. A car splashes a puddle on her, but Ayumu steps in, getting soaked. However, fate has its way, and a car speeds by, splashing a puddle all over the young girl. Luckily, she isn't affected because the heroic Ayumu steps in, getting soaked in the process. As a thank you, Yurushi invites him to his house, where he gives him a dry shirt. Ayumu asks her why it's so big, and she tells him it's her dad's because he's about the same height as him. As always interested in knowing more about his beloved, Ayumu asks her what her dad does for a living, and she confesses that he's a mystery novel writer, which is why he's always in a bad mood. Ayumu asks Hiroshi if her dad also likes shogi, but she quickly changes the subject. When Ayumu leaves, Hiroshi's dad shows up. And he's a big guy, right? When the man asks who he is, Yurushi panics and says that the young man is her fiancé, and they both run away. At the old man's restaurant, Yurushi explains to Yumu that her dad was a prodigious shogi player, but after losing his chance to become a champion, he quit the game for good and banned any talk about it. That's why she's scared to tell him that she's the president of the club. Bruce's dad shows up and demands that his daughter come home without giving any explanation, but Ayumu challenges him to a game of shogi, with the condition that if he wins, the man will listen to his daughter. The father defeats Ayumu and tells his daughter to leave, but Ayumu wants to be heard. Yurushi is the shogi club president. Her dad is relieved, thinking they were eloping. He doesn't hate shogi. Yurushi's grandfather once lost playing tandem with her. His father is relieved, as he actually believed that the two young people were about to run away to get married. Yurushi's mom explains the man doesn't hate shogi. His father lost to her in tandem play, leading to a misunderstanding. He doesn't mind her. The grandfather teased his son, saying it was 3-year-old Yurushi who beat him, but the man, who doesn't have a great sense of humor, got offended. It was just a silly incident from years ago that made our protagonist believe something that's not true, since the man doesn't mind that she's the president of the shogi club. In the end, everyone goes back home, and even though Yurushi's dad realizes that Ayumu is terrible at shogi, he was straightforward when it came to protecting his daughter, which earned him some respect. Back at school, Yurushi's class is getting ready for a field trip, but instead of preparing, she prefers to stay and play shogi with her friends. So Maki has to pick her up and carry her away like she's a cat. Ayumu is upset about not seeing the protagonist for 4 days, affecting his game. Rin plans to train him. The protagonist wants to buy clothes but needs swimsuits and underwear. Maki, she tells him that if he keeps playing like this, he'll never achieve his goal of confessing, so she's decided that while Tsurushi is away, she'll train him hard to improve his game. Then, our protagonist tells her friends that she needs to go buy some clothes and promises Yumu that she'll send him pictures of her new outfit, but she changes her mind when she realizes that what she actually needs to buy are swimsuits and underwear. Maki tells her that sending him those kinds of photos might actually improve their relationship, which makes her blush all over. On the other hand, Rin is getting ready to help our protagonist with his training and goes a bit above and beyond the call of duty. That night, while getting ready, Orochi receives a visit from Yumu, who gives her a charm wishing her a good trip. He mentions that he plans to use those days to train hard with Rin, which Orochi doesn't take lightly, but there's nothing she can do about it. Our protagonist tells him that she'll bring him something back from the trip, and he, being the drama king that he is, says he'll treasure it for life. Yurushi's school trip starts in the town of Nara, where the giant Buddha statue is located. Maki gets stuck between pillars, needing Yurushi's help. She tells Yurushi she's lucky to be flat, avoiding such problems. Classmates arrive, and Maki reminds Yurushi to have fun, hinting at their last trip together. After rescuing her, Maki tells Yurushi that she's lucky to be flat since she doesn't have to deal with those kinds of problems, and they're supposed to be friends. The rest of her classmates arrive, and Maki notices that Yurushi isn't at her best, so she tells her that this could be their last trip together and that she should have fun, but we all know who she's really thinking about. At school, the day has ended, but Rin insists on continuing the training, which doesn't bother Yumu, but it does annoy Atakeru, who also gets caught up in Rin's competitive enthusiasm. Sakurako, who couldn't care less about shogi, heads home, but not before asking Yumo how she thinks Yurushi is doing. Our protagonist replies that she must be having a blast, not knowing that at that very moment, the young girl is being attacked by a group of deer in the woods and is screaming for her life. Well, maybe it's not that dramatic, but her friends are there to support her. After such a scare, Orochi feels relieved to see that the charm Yumu gave her is in good condition. Back at the club, Rin keeps pushing Yumu to get better, but he has a very distinct style, focused on defense as if he could never win. Ayuma thanks Rin for her effort, and she tells him that she'll always be there for him whenever he needs her. But she blushes when she hears her own words, and the two of them go off to have lunch together. On the trip, the girls take a break at some restrooms. Maki and her friends notice that Yurushi is in her own world, so they try to cheer her up. They tell her that what she needs to stop being so flat is someone who makes her heart race, which makes her unable to stop thinking about Ayumu. Our protagonist, on the other hand, keeps training to improve, even when he's with his friends. In his mind, he's still playing shogi. Back in the restrooms, Yurushi's friends ask her about her relationship with Ayumu, and she replies that they're nothing more than friends. Friends who do everything together, take pictures together, and give each other good luck charms the night before the trip. That night, Ayumu, who is studying shogi book, calls the expert to clear up his doubt, but Yurushi doesn't receive any calls because Ayumu was actually trying to reach Rin. He decided not to bother his senpai during the trip, not realizing that Yurushi actually wanted to be bothered. The second day of the trip begins, and the girls are touring all over Japan, taking pictures and enjoying the trip in general. In the end, they arrive at the Love Shrine, where Maki reminds Yurushi that she should pray to find the love of her life. So, she prays for her friend to get better at shogi because if he beats her, they both know what could happen. At night, Yurushi can't sleep because she's constantly checking her phone, so Maki invites her to play a little shogi, even though she has no idea how to play and uses her phone for guidance. At least Yurushi appreciates the gesture. While they're playing, Maki asks Yurushi if she's in love with Yumu, but Yurushi, as always, dodges the topic. Unlike her aggressive playing style, in real life, she's always on the defensive. After playing, Yurushi decides that if Ayuma doesn't call her, she'll send him a message and greet him via text. Meanwhile, our protagonist was talking to Rin, and she asked him if he's decided that when he wins, he'll confess his feelings. He replies that yes, which doesn't make the girl very happy. Then, after hanging up, Ayuma receives the text message that Yurushi sent him, a simple but powerful one like this. The next day, Yurushi is super distracted, so Maki convinces her to spill what's going on. She replies that morning, she got a text from Ayuma saying they would talk on the phone. Bad night. At school, Rin has a representative meeting, so he can't stay to train. However, she's written a detailed notebook listing every single one of Ayuma's weaknesses as a player. Takeru and Ayuma are playing. Ayuma plans to talk to his senpai and play shogi. Takeru finds it odd, but remembers Sakurako. Yurushi prepares for her friend's call. Takeru tells him that's weird, but our protagonist reminds him that he doesn't really have much right to criticize, considering his relationship with Sakurako And that same night, Yurushi gets ready to receive the call from her friend. At exactly 2 o'clock, Ayuma calls Yurushi on the phone, and her eyes light up with happiness. The young man tells her that the moon is beautiful and asks if she can see it too, but Yurushi, having heard that saying that is a declaration of love, just replies that the moon is round, which is technically correct. They both play shogi over the phone, and Ayumu asks Yurushi if she's enjoying the trip. She replies that she's having fun, her training paid off. He apologizes for not messaging, not wanting to interrupt her fun. Our protagonist tells her to apologize to Lozen, as he was supposed to show her his improvement when he got back, but he couldn't wait, and now they're playing because he misses her. She calls him out for not sending her a single message during the whole trip, but he justifies it by saying he didn't want to interrupt her fun. She tells him that it wouldn't have bothered her, but Yurushi notices that he has blushed. Unlike other times, this time she doesn't feel bad, and they keep playing because she's realized that the only thing she's wanted since the trip started is to play with her friend. After the game, Yurushi hangs up the phone and tells Yuma that she missed him too. The last day of the trip begins, and this time it's dedicated to buying souvenirs for their loved ones. While Yurushi is thinking about what to gift her friends, she accidentally bumps into a stranger and unknowingly loses her charm. At school, Rin acknowledges Ayumu's improvement and tells him that at this point, he is capable of beating Yurushi. Ayumu is very happy and can't wait for his friend to return, so he invites Rin to lunch to thank her for the training. At the souvenir shop, Yurushi buys shogi piece pendants for her friends. Meanwhile, Ayumu and Rin are eating, and Rin questions what will happen if Ayumu never beats Yurushi, implying he'll never confess and will regret it, similar to her own missed opportunity to confess to Ayumu. Rin asks Ayumu what if he never beats Yurushi, as he'll never confess and will regret it, like someone she knows. Rin means herself, having missed her chance to confess to Ayumu. Ayumu says he's decided and thanks her for the training, bringing him closer to victory. Rin is, of course, talking about herself and her failure to confess her love for Ayumu at that moment, realizing that that opportunity is lost forever. Ayumu responds that he has already made his decision and thanks her for all her effort, knowing that thanks to the training, he's closer to victory. Back at the hotel, Yurushi realizes that she has lost the charm she gave to Yumu and decides to go back to look for it. Her friends don't join her, so Yurushi goes around all the places she visited and feels happy to see that it's still on the ground from when she bumped into that stranger. But when she bends down to look for it, a mischievous cat jumps in front of her and steals her charm because cats need luck too. The cat escapes. She anticipates its moves and throws a shoe, getting her charm back. The chase leads her to a blooming tree, realizing her love for Yumu. Yurushi tells Maki she's in love with Yumu. Maki is thrilled and celebrates. However, the chase has brought her close to a blooming tree, and in front of such a wonder, she realizes that she loves Yumu. Yurushi returns to her friends and confesses to Maki that she has realized she's in love with Yumu, and even though I think, the rest of the world already knew, Maki is really happy for her friend and celebrates her love. The next day, our protagonist returns to school and gathers the members of the shogi club to give them their souvenirs, and even Sakura gets something, even though she's not even part of the club. The protagonist explains her keychain shaped like shogi pieces and even justifies why hers and Yumu's is a pawn while the others are different. And then she leaves class. Later in the library, Takura gives Sakurako her keychain and mentions that today is the big day for the final match between Yumu and Yurushi. But while they're playing with the gift, it falls to the floor, and when he bends down to pick it up, he finds himself very close to Sakurako. She leans in, looks him in the eyes, and they kiss. Or not. It's not clear, but it would be nice if it were. Back in the shogi room, it's the big moment, so our protagonists are playing the ultimate game, with Rin providing support from the sidelines. Ayuma wins after risky moves. Rin apologizes and leaves. Yurushi notes Ayumu's improvement. Ayumu's win was with a disadvantage, so he doesn't see it as a real win. He notices his friend is bothered and asks her. She fears, as he improves, he'll tire of playing with her. Our protagonist set up the board, and Yurushi acknowledges that considering how much the guy improved over just one weekend, it's only a matter of time before he surpasses her by a lot. However, this victory was achieved with a 4-piece disadvantage, which Yumu doesn't consider a real win. Our protagonist sees his friend is upset upset and asks her why. She says she's afraid when he recovers, he'll tire of her, as Shogi defines her. He assures her she'll win someday, but he'll never tire of her. They head home happy, ready for more romance, twists, and Shogi. He responds that yes, one day, she'll beat him, but no matter how good she gets, he'll never get tired of playing with her. So, they both head home happy and ready for a new day of romance, twists, and Shogi.